Okay, so this is a little video I'm going to do to help a few of you with the green leaves. And this is going to be in acrylic. And yeah, so this was from the Hydrangea and Hummingbird week. And what I'm going to do here is I did a little demo on the flowers, but then I kept this, so it worked out great. I'll just add the leaves to it. So I'm glad I kept this little board with the demo on it, because it just so happens that now I have someone wanting to understand how to paint the leaves. So I've got up the reference photo from the Bold Strokes page. Under albums, you'll find all the reference photos. And I'm just going to use this hydrangea picture because I see there's, some leaves in there. So I'm just going to put that in front of me. And I'm just going to start by blocking in with some sap green. Some of those, just get some paint down and get some of that leaf shape in there. Maybe I'll add a little Indian yellow to the mix. And I'm just going to be putting in some of those leaf shapes. Just using a little paint, and it's some sap, and I put in a little Viridian into the mix just to make it that more bluey color. And I'm just going to keep going, looking at the reference photo just to give me something to kind of, every flower has kind of a direction where the leaves go. So it just kind of helps you get those shapes in there. So I'm just going to use some, on this one here, I'm just using straight sap. And I'm using golden acrylic paint for this. They make really good quality acrylic paint. And even though the reference photo, you don't see a lot of the green coming up out of the hydrangea from above here. They're usually all hanging down. But you do in real life have some of those leaves that kind of come up. And I just like that little bit of a frame that it gives the hydrangea. So I'll put some of that in just because. And I'm just going to block in a few more. So I like to get that base layer in there with the acrylic paint. Usually I start with a darker color like this, and then I'll add to it. So I'm putting in lots of leaves. And you'll notice that, the different kind of tones here. This one's a little more blue, and this one had the more sap color. So I also take note of that when you're working on greens to mix it up a little. I just enjoy that fact that you can, if you make them all the same, it's just, even if you get the shapes right and everything, it can be kind of boring to see them all look the same. So another thing with leaves is there's the vein that comes down the center. So I just put that in like that just to show you. You can do it just with kind of you can take a dry brush or a damp brush, and you can see I removed the paint there. But, you can put that line in pretty easy while the paint's a little bit damp. And this is acrylic, so that's, you don't have to take it right to if you take the paint right off like that, just kind of dust over it with your brush to kind of fill it in. So it's just an idea. You don't have to get that detailed with your leaves, but if you want to, that's just an idea. Well, you can go around and put in some of those little vein marks just with your brush, like that. So you're kind of getting in some of that leafy shape right away. So now I've got a base for all the leaves and I've got sort of a shape. Now I can go in and kind of tweak the colors a bit and the shadows. So for example, I'll work on this leaf here. It's a shadow here and then it's got the, the highlight, the light catching there. So, and then this one here, it's got some nice light on the edge of it. So I'm going to work at building now some of those shadows, because a leaf, like everything, has what makes it shape is the dark parts and the light parts and the difference. So I'm just going to work in, and now I'm going to get more paying attention to the brush stroke. And when I look at this leaf, there's, it kind of comes from that vein. There's these sections of the leaf. So I'll go with the direction more in my brush stroke if I do my brush stroke like that. So be careful not to cover up all the bright. I'm just putting in some of that darker shadow in there. And I'm, paying attention to my brush stroke here. And, you just kind of getting some sap and a little viridian. I'm just going to tuck in some shadow here. And put some up here. Just wherever it's underneath the hydrangea. Right now it's like flat with the hydrangea, and so when I put the shadow in, now the hydrangea is above it. And you can go back and you can cut in some of that dark paint into your hydrangea leaf so it really cuts in and pops out that hydrangea. And again, I'm just paying attention to some of those brush strokes there. So now it's starting to get some shape. It's starting to, curve over. I'm just going to tuck in some more shadow here. You'll notice I'm leaving those light tips. And you could leave them just the way they are. They look so radiant with that white canvas underneath. They really, really show up nice. So I'm just, walking around here, painting my way around, and, I can draw some of that up into the hydrangea so, you get back some of those petal shapes. And you can always go back and put in some of those hydrangeas back in, and I'll do that just so I can show you when you're painting leaves what you can do. So I'll get a little of the cad yellow light now in the mix, and I'm just going to put some of that and some viridian, and I'm just going to maybe a little more cad yellow light, maybe some little dab of Indian yellow in there to warm it up a bit. And I'm looking at my reference photo. I'm just going to go and put some of those highlights on there. And you can start from the edge of try to make it so you can see, start from the edge and pull up like that. Starting on the edge and pulling into the leaf. And I'm going with the sense of the brush strokes with the kind of how the leaf is shaped. Sort of simplifying those little compartments of where the leaf has its little veins. And again, I don't want to keep using just the same green, so I'm going to mix in a little white into it. And I'll just put a few little highlights on there. And same with here. You can kind of work your way around. And you start to get some of those nice little highlights. And some highlights up here for sure. And you might take a little cobalt blue into your green mix and just kind of make a bluey green and put in some of that over in these petals, leaves farther away. I'll kind of work in a little bit more of a blue color, just sets those back from these ones up close. And so I'm just kind of, now I'll show you what I do with the hydrangea. I'm just going to get a little cobalt blue and some white just to go back and show you what you can do with the petals here. You can work them right back over those leaves and it looks really nice. So I'm going to get some white and cobalt, or some white, and to mix it up I'll do some white and ultramarine blue, and I'll just kind of go back in and put in some real nice bright petals, because that really pops it separates them from the leaves and just really enhances that shadow underneath. So it just again makes the leaves stand out some more. And I'll just kind of put in some of those little side petals, just kind of. So there you have it. You can keep going, and continue what I started, and you can even go a few shades lighter on the highlights, so I could get some real light green and just do those tips, really get, and then you can go on the edge of the leaf to show that there's a little curl on the edge there. See if I can zoom in for that. Let's see. So say this one was kind of curling on the edge. That kind of changes the shape. If you go and put, kind of a highlight on the edge, it shows that the leaves are curling over a bit. And another thing with acrylic you can do, which is really a nice thing about acrylic paint, is you could go in and once this is dry, I can see if I can just, it's a little wet still, but you can take a glaze of using your glazing, this gloss varnish. Any gloss medium will work. They call it varnish, they call it medium, they call it chemical words like, different like hardware store names. But if you take some of that on your brush and put in a little, you get some of that, and just add like a little dab of, Indian yellow to it. You can, now my paint's still wet, but if you take it and, let me see if I can show you, and glaze, see that's just a glaze over. You can see how transparent it is. If you do a little glazing here and there, and then in the shadows, just take a little bit of that medium, and you can take some ultramarine blue and you can glaze in. See that? You can see that it's like a clear kind of blue. That'll really cool off certain leaves too. So glazing is another technique you can use when you're painting leaves. Another thing one last thing, if you're doing when you're done your leaves and you're going to your background, you can, let me just make a background color that's really different from the flower. So if I make like that orangey yellow color, something bright so you can see, you can cut into your leaves some of the shapes, the edge shapes. You know, like you can cut in your background into your leaf shape too. So it's just one more idea of how you can create a little more, it's a little more interesting than, you know, painting. You can paint around what you painted and that's fine. But if you cut in, like right here, I can cut in a bit in between those two leaves. You just have something that just looks a little more interesting at the end of the day. So I hope that gives you some more ideas of how you can paint your leaves. And if you have any questions, just feel free to ask me on the Bold Strokes Facebook page. And I look forward to doing more of these little videos.